welcome to Big at the Back, Season 3, Episode 6942. Or Episode 5 or 7, depending on which episode you came from. I am here just about, and I'm very, very depressed and upset and angry, and I really don't want to talk about it. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, exactly the same. It still hurts. So this is.
Shall we
I
rip
guess
the Band-Aid off?
That's exactly what I was going to say. The exact words I was going to use. So, yeah, let's get on with it, I guess.
Okay, so England played really well. I think if we'd have played badly and France were the better team, I'd be accepting of it. But we were the better team. We played really well. The ref was just horrendous. It was a really, really tight game, a really close game. But England were better. And I say, if we play that match 10 times, England wins 7 of them. It's just, on the day, the ref was so heavily biased in France's favour. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a ref. Maybe because I've had, I was 3 or 4 beers deep at that point, I'm thinking that. But you were sober, so what was your perspective on it?
Yeah, I can't really add anything. I'm usually, when I watch football, I take pride in being generally very fair, unbiased down the line. I can see it, like if I'm watching West Ham and it's, you see people say, oh, that's never a foul, that's always a foul. I'm fairly level-headed and can take a fairly impartial view when it comes to refereeing. That was one of the worst refereeing performances I can remember, especially involving an England team.
Yeah,
he was just consistently giving baffling decisions, and we could sit here all day. So there was Saka in the build-up to the first goal.
Mm-hmm.
He gets kicked at twice, and I think it was a Pamecano. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he doesn't win the ball, and he gets Saka twice. They go up the other end and score. Then the foul on Kane on the edge of the area, which, okay, it can be debated whether or not it was a penalty and whether it was on the edge of the box, in the box, on the line, whatever. But the fact that he hasn't given the foul in the first place when it was a blatant foul just says everything. Then we go into the second half. We finally get a penalty. The second one has to be given on VAR. Saka several times in that second half as well gets brought down. It was honestly baffling how someone could be that bad. And it's come out today that he's been retained for the rest of the tournament as well. So he could get the final because obviously Brazil are out, so it doesn't matter. Whereas the English delegates have been sent home. So there will be no English representation in the final, whether it's in the playing sense or the officiating sense. But yeah, I don't know. It was baffling. It was, and like you say, that's what makes it worse. I could take it if we got played off the park, like you say.
Yeah,
if we were genuinely the second best team. But World Cups come down to moments, and they took their moments, and we didn't. I mean, yes, we can blame the ref as much as we want, but again, it's penalty heartache for England.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Kane got in his own head there. The first penalty, he's stepped up, he's done the duty for the country, stepped up being the man. Then it happens again so quickly. I don't think he expected that at all. And I think it's a little bit harsh putting all the blame on him, even though it was all his fault. And he let it down. We're not racist. We all said it in the Euros, so we're saying it now. Kane let the country down. I do think, though, I thought France, to their credit, played okay. I thought Griezmann had a fantastic game. I thought Rabiot in the middle was very good with Tuchemi. But I think England were much, much better. Declan Rice had the best game he's played in an England shirt. That was the best I've ever seen him play. And we have Daryl right behind us just screeching about how great Rice was the whole match, it just made me hate Declan Rice a little bit. But yeah,
I think a lot of that was the alcohol talking as well.
Yeah, I think most of that was.
It says everything that he has named his child after Declan Rice.
He has, hasn't he? I mean, no words. And he was singing a lot about Harry Maguire's forehead, which, take it or leave it if you're watching.
Speaking of Harry Maguire's forehead, him hitting the post as well. I'd basically forgotten that happened until earlier today.
Heartbreak, absolute heartbreak. Just because I backed for about that game in a row, Harry Maguire to score a header. But no, it didn't happen. I feel like because of that result, though, the wind has just been knocked out of me a little bit for this World Cup. it doesn't feel like it was a fair result. Therefore, I just can't really be asked to watch the rest of it. I will for bets, but I don't think we're going to talk about it any further. Let's go backwards then and talk about some of the other games, because France-England's, we both feel quite hard done by, and it's still quite a fresh wound. So let's talk about, in reverse order, Morocco beating Portugal. Now, you called it 1-0 on the podcast last week, which you didn't then follow through on Bet365 because you said 1-0 Portugal. So, thoughts on, I actually think as soon as Cristiano Ronaldo came on, that was the game secured for Morocco, because they knew exactly how Portugal were going to play. Long balls and crosses into the box, which they did, and Morocco were able to counter that expertly because Portugal became really obvious going forward. Clanger from the keeper, though. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, the goal, like you say, the keeper is in absolute no man's land. They did say, I did see a stat, you know, the infamous Ronaldo header where he got so far off the ground. I can't remember, it was for Juventus, I can't remember who it was against. In Nasiri, at the point of contact with the ball, was actually higher than Ronaldo was on that header. So he obviously got some good leap in those legs. But the keeper will be very disappointed with himself to be coming and getting beaten so easily. But I mean, Morocco just keep going. They keep plodding along. Still only conceded one goal in the tournament, which was
no one
the own
scored
goal.
Against them. No one scored against them. It was an own goal. So they are, as far as I'm concerned, completely perfect at the back.
Yep, and they are the first African side ever to reach the World Cup semi-final, which is obviously a huge achievement. I think this is, they said when Shabalala scored that first goal in the 2010 World Cup for South Africa, it was a goal for all of Africa. I feel like this is now like a lot of Africa are behind them, because there's a sense of unity in Africa behind them, because they've often been overlooked as a continent when it comes to football. I was listening to another podcast the other day where they were saying back in '66, African sides were threatening to boycott, and I can't remember if they actually went through the World Cup, because at that point there was no guaranteed place for an African side in the World Cup. It wasn't until the 70s that they got guaranteed places in the World Cup. So they've come a long way in that time. And it's not just that, but the support for Morocco in Qatar as well, obviously, because it's fairly local. They're both Arab countries. It just feels as though it's this real groundswell behind them at the moment. We keep saying it's going to be another test for them. Obviously, they're going to come up against France, who are probably the favourites to win the tournament now, in my eyes. But you wouldn't put it past Morocco at this point, would you?
Either of the semi-finals could be an upset. And yeah, I totally agree. I think Morocco are looking really, really solid defensively. I thought Portugal were absolutely toothless in this game, and they got found out. But yeah, I don't see Morocco getting past France. Just being transparent, I don't see this France team, who are so ruthlessly efficient as we saw against England, losing to a Morocco side with Romain Saïss and Hakim Ziyech. So
well, the thing is as well, like, obviously it goes to show, keep another clean sheet. Aguerd was out injured, and Saïss was basically playing on one leg because his hamstring was so heavily bandaged, and he ended up getting stretched off after about 65, 70 minutes. So they're probably going to be without their two first-choice centre-halves against France as well. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. If they do get through, it will be a huge achievement and probably a miracle at this point, because they are now on their third and fourth choice centre-backs. But I'm still not going to put it past them. Like, yeah, I'm backing France, but at this point, who knows? It's just crazy. And you can say the same as we get on to Croatia in a bit.
Well, on that note, let's talk about the best day of football we've ever seen in our lives. And it started with Croatia 1, Brazil 1. And I told you before the game, I think this is the one that I called to be 1-0. But I told you beforehand, do not underestimate Croatia. They are a tough team. They are strong. They know how to play together. They know how to grind it out. And boy, did they do that. Didn't have a single shot on target for the first 116 minutes of this tie, which is absolutely bonkers. But Brazil just couldn't hit a barn door. Their finishing wasn't very good. And if you're starting Richarlison over Gabriel Jesus, over Bobby Firmino, who they left at home, what do you expect? And it was always going to be a case with this Brazil side of the chickens will come home to roost eventually. You are going to, if you pick a load of average players and leave really good ones, Martinelli, Jesus, Firmino, all at home, because of your favourites, then you're going to be found out. And I think that's what's happened with this Brazil squad. Let's stick on Brazil for a minute. What are your thoughts on their performance, how they've done, Neymar, and what's your perspective on them now they're out of the World Cup?
I disagree with you on like the players that they've left behind. I mean, obviously Jesus is injured. Like he got injured on the pitch. Martinelli is there, but the competition for places in that front line is insane. They've got Vinicius, they've got Neymar, they've got Rafinha, they've got Rodrigo, they've got Richarlison. And then you're looking at Martinelli, who's still young. Remember, like it's important to remember as well, he's still only 21, 22. So his time will come. I think when you've got that much talent in there, you almost can't really go wrong. I don't think Firmino adds anything to this squad. I don't think he deserves to be in that squad. You're the man on this podcast who's been saying over and over again he doesn't deserve to be in Liverpool's starting 11.
Correct. And he doesn't, but he's good enough for this Brazil squad actually to be starting for them, I would argue. I don't think Rafinha has been terrible this World Cup in particular. His performances have not been that of a World Cup winning winger. And if you look at 20 years ago when Brazil last won the World Cup, so 2002 that was, the gulf of talent they had was so much more than the rest of the sides in that tournament. You had Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Ronaldinho, you had Cafu and Roberto Carlos. It was just a team full of the best players, right? If you look, they're still a very talented squad, but player for player, they are certainly not the best team in the tournament. And actually, every other country has really closed the gap and caught up to them. And for a country that footballing-wise has always been devoid of tactics and goes by skill difference alone, essentially, this really does represent a huge problem for them. Am I saying Brazil won't win anything internationally again? No, of course not. I just think they're a lot further from a World Cup than they ever have been, or they have been in a long while.
Yeah, you're probably right, to be fair. I think like they have got a lot of talent in the squad. I agree with you on Rafinha. I think he was poor in this tournament.
And we love Rafinha, right? We loved him at Leeds.
Yeah.
He was a stalwart for FPL. He's a great player. But in this tournament, he was absolutely shocking. And how much better were they when Anthony came on?
Yeah. And I think it's important to put into context as well. Like Livakovic in the Croatia goal had a very good game, made quite a few good saves. And he was just a commanding presence in the area as well. He was only beaten by a very well-worked goal and Neymar taking it round him and slotting it home. But that said, like it felt as though it was Neymar or bust for Brazil in this game. It felt like everything had to go through him, and if it didn't, they struggled to really create anything.
He was rubbish for 104 minutes.
Yeah, he had, I think, about 4 or 5 shots on target, but they were all pretty weak efforts. There was one-on-one where I think Livakovic, I think you could probably say, made a good save.
Yeah.
But I think they struggled to really create good chances. They were making chances, but nothing that you'd say, oh, they've got to be burying that. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, they'll probably come back in 4 years' time and everyone will be tipping them again. I'm pretty sure I said from the start of the tournament, I just feel like they've always got a bottle job inside them because lots of people were tipping them up and I just didn't fancy them to go all the way. And I think you were the same.
Yeah, completely. Essentially, when I was looking at World Cup winners or potential World Cup winners, I was quick to rule Brazil out, actually. And also, I haven't been too high on Argentina either, so that may come back to bite me in the end. But who knows? In terms of the game itself, Croatia, I said it before the match, and I'm saying it again now, they cannot be written off. They cannot be underestimated. They are a team that know how to play together, that are really strong, experienced, tough, technically gifted, powerful footballers. And yeah, it's okay to, in theory, say, oh, if a team is a bit better than you, then sit back behind the wall for 120 minutes and let's play for penalties, because then it's a 50-50 chance, not a 60-40 or whatever. But actually executing that is still really difficult. And how many times in the Premier League over the last 5 years have we seen teams try and park the bus against Man City and Liverpool? And how often has it worked? So this Croatia team is so brilliantly organised, compact and diligent in their defensive work. I think it's a really, really interesting way of playing, especially in these kind of finals. And it's obviously paying dividends for them.
It just keeps working, doesn't it? I mean, obviously they got to the final 4 years ago. They're in another semi-final now. It's going to be another test for them, obviously, if they're to get past Argentina. But like you say, they're so well organised. That midfield three of Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic have been outstanding throughout the tournament. It does make you wonder how far they can keep going, especially when they're going 120 minutes pretty much every game at the moment. Modric at 37 must have, I don't know, like legs of steel to be playing. I know he came off in extra time in the game against Japan, but he went the full 120 minutes against Brazil. And you feel like if they're going to go through to the final, it's probably going to be a case of going another 120 minutes because it's just what they do. Obviously, they beat England in the semi last time in 120 minutes. I think they beat Spain on penalties as well in that tournament. So, I mean, you wouldn't want to be going up against them in a penalty shootout, would you? Because they've got an incredible record. I just want to point out how funny it is that Neymar didn't get to take a penalty because they put him to go fifth.
Brilliant. I mean, we saw it with Ronaldo, I think, in the World Cup 8 years ago, where he was put himself down as the fifth penalty taker and they went out on 4. Now, I think the perfect example actually was Messi going first for Argentina. So it was, okay, sod my ego, let's have our best penalty takers go first. Like that's what they did and it worked. But yeah, this Croatia side, really, really good. I actually might have them as slight favourites, against Argentina. Maybe I'm being too down on Argentina, but I fancy Croatia to get through to the final.
It's a bold shout, especially. It just seems, I feel like at this point it seems written in the stars that Messi's going to win one, just because of the way the cards have fallen. But don't get me wrong, I hope they don't, because I think it'll be funnier that way. But at this point, you would not put it past him because he seems to have really hit his stride. And well, if we talk about the Netherlands game, his goal and an assist in that one, I think he just maybe it's finally going to be his year.
I mean, let's talk first about the penalty shootout between Croatia and Brazil. Then we'll move on to the Netherlands-Argentina match, which was the best match so far. But the penalty shootout, as soon as, I think it was Rodrigo missed his first one, as soon as that happened, it was game over. You just knew Croatia were going to absolutely put them to the sword. And the first 2 penalties against Alisson were straight down the middle. Imagine being in goal and thinking, beaten down the middle. Beaten down the middle again. It's going to really mess with your head. Then the other 2 penalties are straight into the side netting. It's like, Croatia are brilliantly ruthless and brilliantly efficient. Argentina coming off the back of 120 minutes as well. I think they're going to win this semi-final. I think they're going to beat Argentina.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the penalties were fantastic, like you say. And equally, Brazil's penalties, especially the 2 that missed Rodrigo's, was a poor penalty. I always tend to give the credit to the keeper where it's due, but at the end of the day, it's a 50-50 shout for a keeper. Normally they go one way or the other. You've got to make it so that if they go the right way, it's hard to save it. Rodrigo didn't do that. He put it at a nice height and not anywhere near enough in the corner. And Marquinhos missed the target altogether. So you've got to... I know it's harsh to say because the pressure and everything takes a whole nother level. But if you're a professional footballer and you can't score from 12 yards, I mean, come on. The odds are always in your favour in a penalty shootout.
I mean, we're saying this after Harry Kane missed a penalty and England went out.
But the same goes for him.
Yeah, I actually think Kane shouldn't have taken that penalty, but on the day, that's never going to happen. Now, let's move on to the best game of the tournament so far. Netherlands 2, Argentina 2, and this had everything. Chaos, drama, violence, the best football of the tournament, the best free kick of the tournament. Wout Weghorst coming on as a hero. There's a guy on Twitter called Hindu Monkey. When Weghorst was coming on, tweeted, "Imagine looking to save your World Cup and bringing on Wout Weghorst." And then he goes and scores 2 goals. Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. I loved every single minute of it. Weghorst getting a card on the bench and then coming on. Oh, mwah, chef's kiss, the stuff of dreams. But you found this match boring.
No, it was terrible. Terrible game of football. I mean, God knows how many yellow cards it ended up with. I can't remember.
The ref was. I mean, the ref was terrible to both sides. At least it was both sides. It wasn't completely one-sided, like the France.
It could be worse. And then Dumfries getting sent off after the penalty shootout as well. The game itself, I mean, like Messi's assist for that first goal is just outstanding. The way he's going one way, a runner like from his blind side, a reverse ball through, and picked him out perfectly. No one really saw it coming, and a good finish as well. And then obviously they get the penalty in the second half, and at that point you think it's probably all over. They've got a long way to come back, but cometh the hour, cometh the man. Wout Weghorst, and it's funny. Like Netherlands, the nation of total football of Cruyff and some of the most technical players that the world has ever seen, end up 4-4-2 with two big blokes up front, just lumping it long and coming from 2 goals behind. And the first one's a fairly simple one. It's a good ball in and a good run and a powerful header past the keeper. But the second goal, that equaliser, the free kick routine, to have the bollocks to even try that in the 100th minute of the game, it was 90 plus 10. And for it to come off, I mean, you've got to take your hat off to him. Whoever came up with that on the training ground, apparently Weghorst did it at Wolfsburg a couple of years ago as well. So it's not the first time he's pulled off something like that. So maybe that's one that they'll be working on in the training ground, and you'll see people try more often going forward.
Yeah, careful of Turf Moor. It's going to be a drop of a Weghorst every time there's a free kick. But that free kick, as you said, to have the cojones to do it at that point with the stakes that high, it doesn't even matter that they lost, right? Because they lost on penalties in the end. But
they're the winners.
They're the real winners as far as we're concerned. Argentina played brilliantly for about 75 minutes and then just forgot how to play football. And I tell you what, that full-time whistle went. But if it hasn't, if there had been another 10 minutes afterwards, Argentina would have lost that game, because they just were completely at sea against the Netherlands, completely lost the plot and just forgot how to play football. They kind of started playing again in extra time. But I don't know what happened to them. They were brilliant. I also called it first half hour, you don't need to watch. Not a single shot on goal in the first half hour. Any Argentina game, don't bother with the first half hour and you'll miss absolutely nothing. So I think if Argentina fall apart like that against Croatia, Croatia will punish them a lot more harshly than the Netherlands did.
Yeah, but Croatia haven't got a Wout Weghorst.
I mean, Croatia have 11 Wout Weghorst.
I think what happened is Croatia couldn't deal with the long ball. Like when Netherlands tried to play it around and keep it nice and play good football.
Argentina.
Like it was fine. They could deal with that. But when they brought 2 lumps on up front, it was just pump it long. They were like, oh, we can't deal with this. They've got Martinez in there who's always going to struggle with the longer balls because he's a little bit shorter. And they were just bullied and they were rattled. And that's what happened in that last 20 minutes. But then in extra time, they managed to control the game, get their foot on the ball again, and actually play it around. And Fernandez hit the post with almost the last kick of the game. If they would have gone out, they would have been looking back to that and gone, what could have been. But they're again, for the most part, their penalties were fantastic. Messi was just so cool under pressure. What you don't want to talk about is a Liverpool player bottling it from the penalty spot. Tom Van Dijk missed his.
Oh, he did, didn't he? And the first 2 Netherlands penalties, actually, I felt quite sorry for the takers because they were both not awful penalties. They weren't great, but they really weren't bad penalties at all. And there were 2 excellent saves. Emi Martinez is so good.
He is a fantastic saver of penalties. Do you know what Netherlands' problem was here? They didn't have Tim Krul to bring off the bench.
Exactly. Like if they'd have had Tim Krul, they would have won. He would have saved. I mean, Messi's penalty with the stuttered run up. The timing was just exceptional. And you get the sense that unless you're really, really, really good, you can't pull that off. And the way Messi did it was so cool and just waited and waited and waited with it. And it was absolutely brilliant.
You could say it was a cruel way for Netherlands to go out.
Thank you for this episode. We are never recording ever again after that.
That had to be said. You're just disappointed you didn't come up with it.
A little bit. 2 semi-finals then. Let's do predictions. And because we're not going to do another one of these for the final, because I don't want to talk about the World Cup anymore after that France game, let's do our predictions for the semi-finals and our final predictions here and now. So, Argentina, Croatia. What's your prediction?
I am going to go with a 2-1 win for Argentina.
I am going...
You're going Croatia on pens, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-2 and Croatia.
I like it. I like it.
I think Croatia can get at Argentina, and I think Argentina are so good going forward. But I think on penalties, Croatia have it. France, Morocco. I'm going to go 1-0 France. I hate to say it, but I do think Morocco's reign of glory is coming to an end, unfortunately. And especially if they've got the same ref.
Yeah, if don't even want to talk about him. I think you're right. I think France, we've got to make them favourites to get through here. And so you're going for a repeat final from 4 years ago. Imagine that. Yeah,
but I do think France are going to win by more than they did. And they won 4-0 last time. Or 4-1, I think it was.
I think it ended up 4-2, didn't it? Didn't Lloris basically throw one in his own goal near the end?
He did.
I am going to go with a 2-0 win to France. I just think, they got too much about them. Mbappe, having been dealt with fairly well by Kyle Walker, I don't think that... I know Morocco have got Hakimi that they'll probably have up against Mbappe, but I don't think he's as defensively... He is very good getting forward, but he can be got at defensively. And obviously with them missing Aguerd and probably Saïs, I would imagine, unless he's going to be strapped up and sent out again. But even so, they'll really struggle to deal with France's attacking prowess. And I don't think they'll give them as many chances as Portugal did. So I'm going to go 2-0 to France.
Pick your winner then. I'm saying France are going to win. I still got the money on them from the very beginning of the tournament. So I still think France are the winners of this World Cup. Are you going to be bold and say Morocco or Croatia?
I'm going to go with Argentina just to be different. Let's be honest. We can't both go for the same. That would just be boring, wouldn't it?
Tenner?
Do it.
Yeah. And we'll both hope that Morocco win.
Yeah, we'll yeah. Then we'll both give each other a tenner if that happens.
Yeah, agreed. And it would be an unfair exchange though, because I want my tenner more.
Yeah, I want my tenner in euros.
Okay, I can get £10. Let's go with that. I like that. Cool. Now that England are out, we have 15 days. Is it 15 days? No, it's 13
2 weeks.
Days.
2 weeks, exactly.
2 weeks exactly. So it's 14 days. I was wrong both times. We have 2 weeks exactly till the Premier League kicks off. I haven't really looked at fantasy football. I'm guessing you haven't either. However, there are some players I want to highlight because they're players that haven't been to the World Cup. I think they are ones that are great options to start the season with. As well as that, there are some teams that we should be thinking about and teams we shouldn't be thinking about. So, the first is Gabriel. Didn't go to the World Cup. Plays in defence for Arsenal, and Arsenal who not many of their defence have been at the World Cup, and those that are have all gone out early, except for Saliba, but Ben White can cover. So I feel very good about getting Gabriel at the start of the restart of the season. Another one in that bucket as well is Sven Botman. The first 2 fixtures are Leicester and Leeds. So you've got to think Sven Botman in defence at 4.4 million is probably the best in that price bracket. I also kind of want Darwin Nunez, but now Kane's gone home and they've got the double in game week 20. I'm kind of thinking I need to stick on Kane. Are there any early thoughts or initial thoughts? And then we'll go over this closer to the time.
Yeah, no, it's similar to you. I think Saliba's a great shout. Botman is a good shout, but it depends what you're doing with your Newcastle assets because most people have had Trippier, who hasn't really played at the World Cup, so he will be coming back fairly fresh. Same can be said for Callum Wilson, who has only had a few minutes of game time, so he'll be coming back fairly fresh. And a lot of people have obviously still got Miguel Almiron from his form, so it depends how you're planning on juggling your Newcastle assets. Then, as for Spurs, like with that double, they are much more tempting now.
The double
Kane might come back with a point to prove.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's really difficult. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time scrambling just before Christmas trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all my transfers and how I'm going to shape my team up. Like you, I literally have not looked at the FPL website since the start of the World Cup. So it's going to be a lot of last minute making shit up.
I mean, I've just opened the website for the first time in ages. Manchester United's first three are Forest at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home. I think that's screaming Rashford.
Get Ronaldo in. Oh.
Awkward. But yeah, that's really standing out to me as a really nice start. City have got a couple of nice games and then a tougher start. I think you could get away with 2 City players, perhaps, but they've got the double in 23 as well, so you'd want 3 for that. I don't know. There's a lot to think about there and a lot more to think about. But that's, I think, Rashford. I think Gabriel, Kane, probably with a point to prove. I was intent on getting him out for Darwin Nunez, but realistically, there's no way I'm dropping Mitrovic either because he looked great in the World Cup, and they've got a double in game week 19 as well. So where I'm sitting at the moment, I don't know. But I think most of my team is going to be quite set and quite settled. I mean, if Brazil had gone far, I would have dropped Martinelli, but now he's going to have 2 weeks back. He's staying in my team. I'm a bit lost. So I don't know if I'll make changes or not, or what changes I'll make. We'll have to wait and see.
A lot of people would have been, I know I wasn't, I'm pretty sure you were, Luis Diaz would have been one of the first people that we were thinking about. But obviously, he's undergone surgery now, so he's out for the foreseeable. And I think that, as you said, makes Liverpool in general a less appealing prospect. It'll be interesting to see how Salah starts up after his rest. Hopefully he can find some form and work his way back into my team. But I've had him once and he's been shit.
There's no way I'm starting the season without Mo Salah and Andrew Robertson. No, 2 players that haven't been at the World Cup, that have been historically brilliant assets. The first game is tough, Aston Villa away. But then it's like Leicester, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea. Admittedly, Chelsea's tough. But then Wolves, Everton, Liverpool's fixtures look good. So I think I'm going to have at least 2 Liverpool players. I'm a biased Liverpool fan here talking. I really would like Trent, but I just won't be able to afford him. So that's where I'm standing on that at the moment. Probably, yeah, Salah is going to be in my team and captains 100%.
Bold.
Wait and see, though. I could mix it up. Well, who knows? KDB went home early, so I bet he'll have a point to prove as well. And his first match is against Leeds, which could be quite brutal. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll do a full FPL pod next week when we've kind of got our brains in gear for it. But other than that, enjoy the rest of the World Cup. If you're not English, if you are, then don't bother. It's a waste of time. Well, who wants it? Have a great weekend.
Rubbish World Cup anyway. No one wanted to win it. It was in the winter. It's a corrupt World Cup in Qatar. It didn't matter.
Exactly. Completely rubbish tournament. Have a great week, everyone. See you all then.